Naxxramas is one of the most iconic raids in all of World of Warcraft, featuring many incredible lore-important bosses including Kel'Thuzad, a major character from Warcraft 3 and the final boss of this raid. Through Vanilla World of Warcraft, Naxxramas was the final step for adventurers before they left for Outland, and as Wrath of the Lich King rode around, we saw Naxxramas receive a soft revamp and also be the primary introductory raid for that expansion. But with that level 80 revamp, we lost access to the original level 60 version of the instance until the Dragonflight expansion. We have seen a way added into the game that allows players to explore a version of Old Naxxramas once again in the retail version of the game, and maybe even more importantly, unlock some of the classic items such as tier 3 armor sets. In this video, I want to dive deep into unlocking Old Naxxramas and then highlight some of the secrets you can find within, so let's get started. Before we dive in, you will need a few different items across your journey in unlocking Old Naxxramas, so here is a full list if you want to stock up before you head out. 3 Dark Runes, 5 Essences of Death, 1 Righteous Orb, 4 True Silver Bars, and a Stratholme Holy Water. You also need a maximum of 6 large Brilliant Shards, 5 Arcane Crystals, a Righteous Orb, and 60 gold, but this is only needed if you are not exalted with the Argent Dawn. To begin unlocking Old Naxxramas, we have to explore another classic instance first, Scholomance. Many veteran players, or anyone who has been playing classic WoW in the last few months, should remember that Scholomance was updated with the Mist of Pandaria expansion in retail WoW. You couldn't enter Old Scholomance and get some of the older items found within until very recently as well. To enter Old Scholomance, you need to enter Modern Scholomance. Dr. Theoden Krasnov, aka the Butcher, is a big boss from the original Scholomance, who makes a return in the Modern Scholomance, just this time as a skeleton instead of a human, and instead of being a primary boss, this is a rare boss who will occasionally appear inside of the instance on the heroic version. When you clear 2 Radagor, the 3rd boss of the instance, and kill Radagor, there is a chance that Krasnov will spawn. If he does, he will yell that the doctor is in, so it is pretty obvious to know if he spawned in this instance. Given the nature of heroic dungeons, you can only farm this dungeon once per day per character, so it may take you a little bit of time depending on RNG to get Krasnov to spawn. Fortunately, once he does, you can kill him and he has a guaranteed chance to drop Krasnov's Bag of Horrors. This is simply a toy item with a 2-hour cooldown that will transform you into the same model as Krasnov for 10 minutes, while occasionally yelling some edgy lines. But having this item is important for the next step of unlocking Old Naxxramas. Clear through Modern Scholomance and kill Dark Master Ganling. You can then enter the room that Krasnov is a boss in during the original version of Scholomance and find some bones. Here you must use Krasnov's bag on top of the bones, and the ghost of Eva Sarkov, an important character connected to the original Scholomance, will appear. However, she will be afraid of you while you are transformed, and you will need to drop the disguise in order to talk to her. When you do, she will give you an inert spectral essence. With 3 Dark Runes and 5 Essences of Death, you can interact with the inert spectral essence to gain the spectral essence. This allows you to communicate with the deceased of Caerdaro, and you can see ghosts. The next step in your journey is going to take you to some nearby locations to collect a bunch of items, the first being Eva's Femur, pretty close to Eva Sarkov. The journal, or Eva's journal specifically, is located inside of the new Scholomance dungeon on a bookshelf right before the final boss of Dark Master Ganling. It can be kind of hard to see for some players, but is pretty obvious as it is much brighter. Next, you will need to go to Corrin's Crossing in the Eastern Plaguelands and find the Ruined Inn. On the first floor, you can get this old painting. You can then return to Caerdaro and trade it with artist Renfrey to get the imported candle. Next, you can go to the living side of Stratholme and find Ezra Grimm's tobacco shop. Next to where Ezra Grimm spawns, you can find the undelivered shipment of smokes, and then you can return to Caerdaro once again and find Rory to obtain the tobacco-filled candle. Next, you can go to Andor Hall in the Western Plaguelands and find the ruined town hall in the center of the city. Say hi to Radagor again and find the deed to Andor Hall on the wall. You can then return to Caerdaro and find Magistrate Marduk to get the authentic Andor Hall candle. Next, in Caerdaro, you can find the water fountain and find the Caerdaro fountain water, which is a bucket on the fountain. You can then take this to Joseph Dirt in Caerdaro to get the stinky candle. You can then go to Darrowshire and find this trampled dog next to a meat wagon. You can then return it to Sammy in Caerdaro for the ghost warding candle. With Eva's Femur, journal, and the 5 candles, you can start a ritual by interacting with Eva's journal. Go to the main building that leads to Scholomance and use the journal in order to enchant it. When you do this, you will get the achievement Memory of Scholomance, which will now allow you to enter Old Scholomance on any character on your account. To enter the instance, just interact with the book here to go in. Inside of Old Scholomance are a bunch of different weapons, armors, and crafting recipes for more weapons and armor. Depending on what you want and what you like, you can definitely spend a lot of time in Old Scholomance just unlocking all the different items. But there aren't too many special secrets found within, except for one. This leads us to the main part of unlocking Old Naxxramas. Inside of Old Scholomance, you can go to the Rattlegore boss room, and in the basement area, you can find a bunch of bone piles. In this one, you can find a tiny little cracked Argent commission and interact with it to pick up that item. In your inventory, you can interact with the commission while having 1 righteous orb and 4 true silver bars to create an Argent commission. This is a trinket item that you can equip, and with it equipped, you can head back to Old Scholomance and kill Darkmaster Ganlein, who will then drop a Darkmaster's Scourge Stone. This will give you the appropriately named quest of Darkmaster's Scourge Stone. You can then head to the Eastern Plaguelands and go to Light's Hope Chapel. There you can talk to Duke Nicholas Zaviernohoff. I've always struggled with pronouncing his name. Turning in this quest will allow you to obtain Scourge Stones. Next, head to the living side of Stratholme and search for an Eye of Naxxramas walking around. You will typically have to fight some other mobs for these enemies to begin attacking you. Killing them will drop a Ward of Naxxramas, which can be consumed to give you a 2-minute buff, so hold on to this item and don't use it immediately. You will want to make sure you have a Stratholme Holy Water, which can be found from supply crates around the instance if you didn't bring one with you. You will then want to go to the entrance of the Crusaders Cathedral and use the Ward of Naxxramas. You will then see a Dread Ward of Naxxramas you can toss your Stratholme Holy Water onto. Doing so will give you a debuff lasting 5 minutes, starting a strict timer. You will have to run from here to the other side of Naxxramas and kill Lord Aureus Rivendare to open a gate by his necropolis. Inside is a Hand of Naxxramas, and you can use your Argent commission to deal with this enemy. Once you do this, you don't have to worry about the timer anymore, and can then return to Light's Hope Chapel in the Eastern Plaguelands and find Archmage Angela dos Santos. Occasionally, depending on your progression through the zone, you will have to go find her in Tyr's Hand. She will then give you a quest that is the final big step for unlocking Naxxramas. Depending on your reputation status with the Argent, this quest changes a little bit. If you are honored, you will need to bring 6 large brilliant shards, 5 arcane crystals, 1 righteous orb, and 60 gold. If you are revered, you will need to bring 3 large brilliant shards, 2 arcane crystals, and 30 gold, and if you are exalted, it is free. So if you don't want to spend money to gain access to Naxxramas, you will want to become exalted with the Argent. As you progress through the main questline in the Eastern Plaguelands with Fiona's Caravan, you will eventually arrive to Light's Hope Chapel with the quest Argent Call, the Trial of the Crypt. Completing this quest will immediately send you to Revered with the Argent, and you may even have to complete this quest just to do the aforementioned turn-in to reach Honored in the first place. This quest is pretty quick and easy to reach, and you only have to do a few quests leading up to it, and ultimately it's just a good idea to do. Once you complete it and you become revered, you then unlock 2 repeatable quests from Lord Raymond George outside of the crypt behind the main chapel building. Aberrations of Bone, which requires you to go into Scholomance and kill Rattlegore, as well as Annals of the Silver Hand, which requires you to go into Stratholme and pick up a book in the living side. Both of these are pretty quick and easy to do, though I personally prefer Aberrations of Bone. You can complete one of these, both of them, or any combination of them over and over to a total of 11 quest completions to raise your reputation to Exalted. This can feel a little grindy, but it's definitely not that bad compared to a lot of other stuff in the game. Once you complete the quest, the Dread Citadel Naxxramas, with whatever materials you need, you will have fully empowered your Argent commission and get the achievement Wards of the Dread Citadel, and now you can access Old Naxxramas. This can be done by going to the Plaguewood in the Eastern Plaguelands outside of Stratholme, near where you could enter the original Naxxramas, and find a ward that you can interact with. Once inside Naxxramas, you can now explore this entire area and do a lot to unlock so many different things. The first thing you will want to do is obtain a new special grappling hook. This will allow you to access some new stuff inside of Naxxramas. Make sure you keep your Argent commission equipped in order to obtain Scourge Stones, and also make sure you have some Stratholme Holy Water. When you kill the Grand Widow Fairlina, you will get Fairlina's Sewing Kit. Then over in the Construct Quarter, you can find a Construct's Hook on a Vat of Slime. Then there's all of the slime in Naxxramas. You can fish in it and get an Abomination's Chain. Combining all 3 together will give you the makeshift grappling hook. You can use this on a few different grapple points all around Naxxramas. Now with the grappling hook, let's go find our next secret. In Thaddeus' room up in the rafters, you can find a goblin by the name of Zakit Skull Smash. He will be sleeping and you can throw a Stratholme Holy Water on him in order to wake him up. By doing this, he will then give you a quest called Inconvenience Fee. You can then collect 20 Invader Scourge Stones from bosses in Stratholme and Scholomance, 5 Corruptor Scourge Stones from bosses in Naxxramas, 3 Dark Runes from mobs around Scholomance and Corn's Crossing, and 1 Black Coffee from different vendors. If you leave Naxxramas and return to Zacket again, you will have to use another Stratholme Holy Water, but you can turn in the quest once you have all the materials, and he will move to a significantly more convenient location at the central ring of Naxxramas, where he then becomes a vendor. He sells a bunch of items, including armor pieces, recipes, crafting ingredients, a plagued grain toy item, and an item called Rotten Delicious, which is important for something else later. These items are primarily for obtaining the original Tier 3 armor sets, and these armor sets are expensive, and you will have to buy a lot of stuff from this vendor. Each armor set costs 2.8 million gold. Yeah, no, I wasn't kidding when I said this was expensive. But the armor sets are cool, so it is definitely worth it for some people. If you want a full list and walkthrough for unlocking Tier 3 armor and some other items instead of a brief overview, I'll have a link to another written guide down in the description. Next, you can obtain glacial frost resistant sets. First, you have to go to the military quarter and find Omarian's second handbook, which will begin a quest taking you to Master Craftsman Omarian at Light's Hope Chapel in the Eastern Plaguelands. After turning in the quest, a ton of pages are going to appear across Naxxramas, and you will now have to collect all of them. There are a lot of pages, so let's go through them very quickly. Obviously, pause if you need. In the outer ring of Naxxramas, inside the slime pool between the construct and arachnid quarters, you can find pages 1 and 2 down in the slime. In the first room of the arachnid quarter, you can find pages 3 and 4 and at the slime pool. In Fairlina's room, amongst some spider eggs, you can find pages 5 and 6. In Myexina's room, you can grapple above the entrance and find pages 7 and 8 on the outer ring. In the tunnel leading to Gluth, you can find a grapple point that takes you to pages 9 and 10. In Grobulus's room, you can grapple up to find pages 11 and 12. Starting at the grapple near the tunnel leading to Gluth, you can climb up and go through a slightly tricky area to then find pages 13 and 14 on the ceiling above the corridor after patchwork. In Thaddeus' room, in the same direction as you originally went to Zacket's Skull Smash, you can find pages 15 and 16. In the starting areas of the Plague Quarter, you can find pages 17 and 18 on top of a meat wagon. Between Noth and Hygen, you can find pages 19 and 20 on top of a mushroom. In Lotheb's room, you can find pages 21 and 22 by a gate. Overlooking Noth's room, which can be accessed from the outer ring, you can find pages 23 and 24. Above the entrance to Gothic's room, you can grapple up and run along this area to find pages 25 and 26. In the Four Horsemen room, you can find pages 27 and 28 by the sewer pipe. In the stables area by Instructor Vesuvius, you can grapple up and run along to find pages 29 and 30. And finally, after Vesuvius, you can go into the corner and find pages 31 and 32. Once you return all of Omarian's notes, you will unlock some new patterns that you can buy and then craft with the appropriate crafting profession. These items are significantly cheaper and easier to create than the Tier 3 armor. Now for the final secret of Old Naxxramas I want to highlight, and for many people I have saved the best for last. Returning to Zacket's Skull Smash, you can buy the Rotten Delicious item, which I mentioned would be important for later. Later is now. Get the item and go to Instructor Vesuvius. With the fight, you can interact with an Obedience Crystal to gain control of a Death Knight understudy. While controlling the understudy, you can bring him to the skeletal horse by the name of Valiance, where the understudy will mount the horse. You can then return the mounted understudy to Vesuvius, dismiss the mind control, and kill all of the enemies. Upon looting, you will then gain the Reins of Valiance. This is just a super cool looking skeletal horse mount that looks pretty similar to all the other cool skeletal horse mounts in the game, but lore wise, this mount is specifically the mount of the dwarven horseman Thane Korthaz, which I think is pretty cool. And those are the secrets of Old Naxxramas. There was a lot going on in this video, and I'll have some guides linked down in the description if you need more help. And if you like secrets, consider watching my recent video where I highlighted the biggest secret in all of World of Warcraft. I hope y'all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.